One of the writers for She-Hulk, the Disney Plus series, is going off on a tangent on Twitter, pretty much saying that it is the most comic book accurate show in the MCU. Even though there's hardly any MCU shows out there, maybe a few that have come out within the past year and a half or two. So it is still a pretty new space, and him automatically going to being the most accurate comic book show in the MCU is pretty it's a pretty big standpoint. Of all the bouts with the discourse over the past year, I don't think I've been more annoyed than watching She-Hulk get torn apart since its release this past August, when it's generally one of the most interesting, creative, self-aware things the MCU has done in years. Yeah, I wonder why it's receiving a crap ton of backlash from audience scores. Because, let me think, the CGI is terrible. You also have the Hulk, who slowly, gradually got strong and popular. Meanwhile, She-Hulk automatically gets this power and automatically is even more powerful than the Hulk himself, who's been around far, far more than her. Yeah, it makes perfect sense, yeah. But imagine being one of the people who wrote She-Hulk comics and having to hear about how comic and accurate the series is and how the show is doing some sort of disservice to the character. That is what Dan Slott has to deal with, who brought this up on Twitter this week as everyone was talking about the successes and disappointments of comic book movies and shows in 2022. Slott, as he notes, has written more She-Hulk comics than literally anyone, and as such, should really be the final say on that matter. You see, when you translate a comic book to a film, you don't necessarily need to have every single part in it. For example, the Batman comics are extremely dark, gory, and sexual. But yet, when we continue to see Batman movies, we don't really see that. And yet, what happens is they continue to do well. And here we have Dan Slott, who has written for the show and written a lot of comic books for She-Hulk, saying it is the most accurate comic book, even getting points of the comic book where She-Hulk is twerking. I don't know who asked for this. Most of the time, kids are watching this stuff. Sure, you have the grown adults as well, but most of the time it's kids. And you're putting a CGI character and also some popular singer, Megan Thee Stallion, into your show and having them twerk for 10 seconds. I don't know what was going through this guy's head. I truly don't. Slott also goes on to address the new and famous She-Hulk Megan Thee Stallion twerking scene, which he describes as also completely in character, given her comic history. And Dan Slott says, people arguing the twerking scene in She-Hulk wouldn't have happened in the comics. Barring the She-Hulk jumping rope in a bikini, I had her karaokeing, dancing, and partying so hard it was causing structural damage to Avengers Mansion. This is the hill they want to die on. Again, comic books are meant for the die-hard fans. When you translate it to a show or a movie, you're trying to appease the broader audience. And when you have this kind of stuff, this stupid stuff where people are twerking, it it doesn't provide a good outlook, especially when kids are watching it. Because that's the message that they're getting. Oh, twerking is so good and such. It is a very disappointment that he thinks that just because he added twerking, it is still sticking to the lore accurate comic book version of her being in a bikini and jumping rope with it. Doing battle with all the trolls who showed up to try and debate him, Slott makes a whole host of points. He notes that those now saying it's not about whether it's comic accurate are the same ones that were saying exactly that for months, and now they're just moving the goalpost. You see, people were complaining about how She-Hulk in the show is powerful right off the bat. She often wins, even her court cases and her fights, she's often winning. The Hulk, on the other hand, people are complaining because Hulk didn't have that. Hulk had to learn as he went. She-Hulk doesn't. Just because she's a girl, she's automatically gained all the power of the Hulk and is now apparently even more powerful than the Hulk. He recalls that Tony Stark once had a stripper pole on his private plane for paid dancers, and everyone was fine with that. You know, the thing is, the stripper pole wasn't being used with a girl that is half naked. That's the thing I guess he doesn't understand. It may be there, but it hasn't been used, and it's not even going to the ceiling. counters the idea that the show made all its male characters look terrible. Nothing a long list of Jen's coworkers, family friends that were men who were not in fact creepy or bad. Ultimately, he concludes that 2022 was frustrating as he got to see a great adaptation of a character he worked on for years, ultimately to see her get insulted by people who really have no idea what they're talking about. He sets one of his goals for the coming year as actually becoming a writer on a series like this, rather than just consulting or being credited. Yeah, that's why the audience scores at 33%, with having major Marvel fans backlashing it because of all the stupidity that the show has brought on to the character of She-Hulk and how it's making the Hulk himself look stupid. I hope you guys enjoy this one. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye bye.